Class, welcome back. We're going to start our unit on Islam. To give you a little background, Islam is a theistic religion, monotheism. They believe in one God, God is one, and they would hold loosely to the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament and the New Testament in the Bible. They would say that there are errors and that the Quran, which is the holy book that Islam holds to, corrects the errors. So the text is the Quran, and we'll talk about that. If you look at the handout, you'll see the outline for our discussion. We'll talk about geographical location in pre-Islamic Arabia, the influences that go into making Islam, the life of Muhammad, the founder of, well, he might not be the founder, but he is the founder of Islam, the Quran, the holy book, and what it teaches, Islam in practice, and what does it look like in terms of what do Muslim people do. So Islam is the religion, Muslims practice Islam. And we'll talk about the caliphate, the religious structure, rulers, and the spread of Islam in the different empires, and divisions in Islam. And then again, Islam in the modern world. How does Islam deal with the challenges of the modern world, like secularism? So each of these religions is having internal and external challenges. We've been talking about those. So I want to spend this portion of the video talking about the conditions in Arabia where Islam is born. Islam is an Arabic word meaning surrender or obedience, and this is obedience to God. Submission, or Muslim, comes from the same root and means one who has surrendered. This is also an Abrahamic religion. Remember Abraham, the story of Abraham? His son Ishmael is connected to Islam. And Abraham is also the example of what it is to be faithful. Abraham had this attitude of submission to God. He's the example. All right, so let's talk about pre-Islamic Arabia. This is the Arabian Peninsula, the Red Sea to the southwest, the Persian Gulf to the northeast, the Indian Ocean to the southeast, and the inhabitants lived in relative isolation. Okay, let me give you time frames. This is, we're talking about after the fall of Rome. Muhammad is going to, let me see if I have his dates really quick. He is going to die in 632. He's born in 570. So this is talking about the Arabian Peninsula after the fall of Rome. And this is an area where the inhabitants lived in relative isolation in the desert. Most of the inhabitants were called Bedouins. This is Bedouin culture, and they survive off the desert, and the desert is pretty harsh. They lived in tents and tended herds of camels, sheep, and goats. They're moving from oasis to oasis where there's water. And they're often engaging in trade. So the trade routes in this area were going to be connected to Muhammad and his family. The Bedouins are pretty tough people, and they're often engaged in raiding one another. They offered protection to merchant caravans passing through their territories. The Bedouin social unit was based on kinship groups, the tribe, and within the tribe, the clan. They had no central government. Several features of Bedouin society influenced Islam. The tribe was governed by a participatory system in which every mature and able male had the right to be heard on critical issues affecting the tribe. The leader of the tribe was called the sheikh. He was first among equals. When Muhammad came to lead his people, this is how they thought of him. In addition, the tribes had no written laws, but they had a tradition passed down to them called the Sunnah. And the Sunnah means well-trodden path. Muhammad's behavior and the pattern of life he established also came to be called the Sunnah in Islam. Third, honor was important in Bedouin culture, and it would be important to Muhammad as well. Everything the male Bedouin did represented his clan, so this could bring collective honor or collective disgrace upon the clan. All right, so that's part of Bedouin social order. The beliefs of the Bedouins, or these pre-Islamic people, was that they had local gods. There were 360 gods represented in the Meccan sanctuary at Mecca. One of the gods there was called Allah, which simply means the God. Allah was the high God, creator of the world, and the tribal god of Muhammad's clan, the tribe, the Quraysh, sorry. But this god was not particularly important to the other Bedouins. They had other gods that were important to them, but yeah, Allah was not the one for all the Bedouin culture. He didn't stand out. He wasn't even the most popular. They also believed in angelic beings, fairies, and jinns, from which the word genie comes. There were animistic influences as well, so orders of spiritual beings. There was an influence of early Christianity in the region. A particular influence was from the Byzantine Empire in the north, in Turkey. So remember we talked about the eastern center of Christianity in Constantinople. That became the Byzantine Empire. And Byzantium was the Eastern Empire centered in Constantinople, and then the Muslims are going to invade and take that and make it Istanbul, which it is currently Istanbul. There were political and ethnic conflicts in the area as well. Some were intertribal. The city of Mecca, where Muhammad was born, sat along a major north-south caravan route that connected the spice markets and the ports of Arabia with the Mediterranean Sea. The trade route led to increased economic activity and growth in the city of Mecca. Mecca also increased its power and had developed a complex system of alliances with nomadic tribes to protect the caravans. In this way, the tribe that Muhammad was from came to dominate this trade route and thus became wealthy and powerful. Judaism had a presence in this area as well, with the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, if you remember the second diaspora, and previously with the dispersion of the 10 tribes of Israel in the 600s before Common Era, the first diaspora. There were a significant number of Jews in Arabia, so Jewish influence and Christian influence in the area. Another influence in the area was Persian Zoroastrianism, a dualistic religion. Now, we aren't going to learn about Zoroastrianism, but I would encourage you to look it up. It's a very interesting religion in Persia. They have views about heaven and hell that could be influential in in the religion of Islam. Finally, the prevalent religious practices in the city of Mecca centered on the shrine known as the Kaaba, or the cube, and I will show you pictures of the Kaaba later. This is a sacred cube-shaped shrine, inside of which is a black stone about the size of a pomegranate, and it's oval in shape. Tradition holds that the angel Gabriel brought the stone down to Ishmael, remember the son of Abraham. Legend also has it that the holy stone once had been so brilliantly white that pilgrims could be guided to the city by its radiance. But because of humanity's wickedness, the stone later turned black. This was a traditional pilgrimage site and a holy place prior to Islam. Some people say this goes back to Adam and Eve or even the creation. So there are lots of stories about the Kaaba at Mecca. All right, let's talk about Muhammad, the life of Muhammad. I'm going to move down here. So here we are on the handout. When does Islam begin, do you think? That's a good question. What is its origin? It lies either at the beginning of time, at the creation, or in the 6th century Common Era in Arabia, depending on your point of view. So the Orthodox Muslim believes that Islam starts with Muhammad, and I gave you his dates, 570 to 632 Common Era, but it shares a tradition with Judaism and a common biblical origin when God or Allah created the world and the first man, Adam. So they are going to say Islam is as old as creation. Or scholars will say Islam begins with Muhammad. So it depends on your perspective. All right, Adam is the descendants of Adam are traced to Noah, who had a son named Shem. Remember Shem, Ham, and Japheth. That is where the word Semite, descendants of Shem, comes from. Like the Jews, Arabs regard themselves as Semitic people. Shem's descendants are then traced to Abraham and his wives, Sarah and Hagar. At that point, two familiar stories about Abraham provide the cornerstones of the Islamic religion. The first, Abraham's attempted sacrifice of his own son, Isaac, demonstrates Abraham's submission to the will of God in the supreme test, hence the word Islam or submission. The second story concerning Ishmael's banishment gave rise to the belief that Ishmael, son of Hagar and Abraham, went to Mecca, and that eventually from his descendants, the Prophet Muhammad emerged in the 6th century Common Era. Muhammad is born in 570. His father died before his birth, and his mother dies when he's 6 years old. He went to live with his grandfather, who was the custodian of the holy temple known as the Kaaba, the holy place. His grandfather died after 2 years. So Muhammad was then left in the care of a paternal uncle, Abu Talib. As a child, he traveled by caravan with his uncle to Syria, where a Christian monk one day drew attention to the fact that the child bore the marks of prophethood. He spent time as a shepherd. As a young man, he joined the merchant caravans, and at the age of 25, he entered the service of a wealthy widow named Khadijah. He fell in love with Khadijah, and she was 15 years older than him, but they got married. They married one another. I'm going to pause for a moment and get my other hand out. And Muhammad have children, and some of them die, and this provides an opportunity for reflection in Muhammad. Khadijah is there as a comforter to Muhammad. She encourages him in his revelations that he's having. He goes to a cave to meditate and pray, and the angel Gabriel comes to him there and reveals God's word to him. So he has these revelations, and what is revealed to him is that he is the last and the greatest prophet. And he is told the contents of the Quran while he's there. Now, he gets a revelation that the Quran that he receives is the final revelation from God, and it is complete, and it is for humanity. So Islam is going to be a universal religion, and Muhammad sets out to make converts to this religion. He is first going to go to his people who are probably close in belief, Jews and Christians and polytheists in the area. Remember, polytheism is many gods. They ultimately are going to reject his revelations and persecute him. Initially, I don't mean ultimately, but initially they persecute him. And he has to flee, and he flees to Medina. To Medina, which is another town it's called the Hijra to Medina. It's the flight to Medina. And this is in 622. So here we are on the handout. Hijra to Medina in 622. The Jews there did not accept his teaching. Again, he's still trying to make converts. They did not recognize him as a prophet. And there are battles between Mecca and Medina. And Muhammad, as a tribal leader, is able to bring about peace in some disagreements. And so he becomes recognized as a man who could lead, and he gets respect and he gets a hearing. So from Medina, the Muslims who have converted, who have followed Muhammad, go back to Mecca. And this is called the first pilgrimage to Mecca. Remember, this is his hometown. And when they go to Mecca, he destroys all of the idols at the holy site where the Kaaba is. And he institutes worship of Allah, the high God, the God. And he kind of institutes a new religious practice in doing that. And so this is going to be an example for all faithful Muslims to make a pilgrimage to Mecca, the holy place. Mecca serves as a point of unity for Muslims. And we'll talk about the importance of Mecca when we get to the practices. All right, I have some dates I want to give you. Khadijah, his wife, dies in 620. So before the Hijra. His uncle died and Khadijah died. They were powerful people who could protect him. So after their death, he was no longer protected and had to flee. He has control over Mecca by 630. But in 632, he dies unexpectedly, and they hadn't really prepared for his death or who would be the new leader. So there is a split that occurs in Islam going all the way back to his death. So Abu Bakr becomes the new leader. This is a relative, and he is then succeeded by Umar in 644, and Umar is succeeded by Uthman, and then by 650 the canonization of the Quran occurs. The canonization is where they accept the teachings as official. It's written down. It's going to be written and preserved. But this line of succession is going to be from Muhammad to Bakr to Umar to Uthman, and then to the fourth successor, Ali, let me find his date, is going to be disputed. I will find that later when we talk about the divisions in Islam. That is going to lead to the first major division in Islam. Who is the rightful caliph, the rightful leader after Muhammad dies? Actually, I think I have time. Let me just look really quick at I can pause. Going to lead from 656 to 661. And we'll talk more about the caliphate very soon. So generally, the life of Muhammad, you could read a lot about Muhammad in another text, in a textbook. In our textbook, we have some things, and online. So there's lots of material out there. I would encourage you to do a little more research. Next, we're going to talk about what was the content of Muhammad's revelation that becomes the Quran? What was the teaching and how was it different from, let's say, Christianity or Judaism? All right, I will pause here and see you in the next video.